welcome back to our channel. There are just some English words that always seem to slip through our memory, no matter how many times we came across them. Don't you think so?
Yeah, actually, that's very true. And even as a native speaker, I still have trouble with a few words.
Yeah, I have one in my mind, and that's what we're going to talk about today. Let's jump right in.
Hey everybody, CrossTalk FM is an English and Japanese bilingual freestyle podcast. In this podcast, we explore some cross-cultural themes and trends. I'm Andrea.
I am Tomoya. このポッドキャストは英会話スクール&カフェを運営しているトモヤとアンドレアが毎週自分たちの周りで起きたことや海外のニュースについて英語と日本語でカジュアルに話している番組です。So in this episode, we're gonna talk about like tricky words that we just can't remember no matter how many times we try.
Okay.
So,
how about for you? Like you said at the top of the episode, there's one word, especially that you can't remember. What is that one word? I'm just curious.
It is conservative.
Okay. Conservative.
Conservative is 保守的な.
保守的. Okay. So you can't remember the meaning, or you can't remember the spelling, or all of it?
It's kind of hard to describe. I know the meaning and I know the spelling.
Okay.
I perfectly remember this word.
Okay.
But in a conversation, I can't come up this word.
Okay.
会話の中で、話しているときに、これはなんか保守的な考え方だねみたいな。
Okay.
いうときに、あれ出てこないみたいな。
Well, that's funny because I can't remember hoshuteki sometimes. I just learned hoshuteki maybe last year or so. Didn't know what it was before then. And I can't remember hoshuteki. So, there's some ways to get around that. Like when you can't remember the word, right?
そうね。
Yeah.
そう、いつもなんです、これ本当に。もう1週間、2週間とかの話じゃなくて、1年、2年の話でもなくて、もう何年も。
Yeah, same.
Yeah. だからもう今回はこの困った言葉たちをやっつけていく回になります。
Okay.
やっつけるどういうふうに Okay.
Okay.
So, are there words that you find yourself constantly looking up even though they are in your native language?
Yes. Yes.
そんなことがあるんかい。
Yeah. So like if I were, I'm a native English speaker. If I were to say, oh, I can't remember this word in Japanese, that would be acceptable. That'd be fine because to me, Japanese is a foreign language. But in my own native language, there's words that I have to look up almost every time I use them. But I understand the meaning. And I know how to say them. For me, I can't remember how to spell. There's two words especially. I can't remember how to spell them.
そうじゃあネイティブのアンデレさんでもやっぱりいつもちょっと迷ってしまう、ちょっと辞書を見たくなるような言葉がねあるっていうわけですよね。
Yeah, and I have to say I'm really good at spelling. I've always been good at spelling, but there's two words that always trip me up. I always get them wrong whenever I try to spell them.
What are they?
The first one is definitely, which is an easy word, right? But I always write it DEFINATELY, but it should be ITELY. So I always mess up the I for an A sound. The second word is diarrhea.
Yeah.
Which is, sorry, it's kind of gross.
Yeah, I think we have mentioned this word before. Yes.
I cannot spell that word. I cannot spell it.
How about Japanese that you can't remember or you always have to look up dictionary? You said hoshuteki is the one of them.
Yeah, I'm finally starting to get it. When I was first learning Japanese, there were a few words that I couldn't remember very well, like eisei-teki, like cleanliness or hygienic.
Eisei-teki.
Yeah, eisei-teki. I had to look it up every single time. I'm okay with that now, and hoshuteki I'm okay with now. Yeah, there's probably some, but I haven't looked up anything in a long time.
I see. So in your opinion,
yes,
what makes the word sticky? I mean, easy to remember. Is it the way it sounds, or is it meaning, or maybe the context in which you have seen that?
Okay. So it means sticky as in a word that's easy to remember, right? I think words that stick with us, that kind of stick in our mind, are words probably, that are exactly. It sounds, for me, like it sounds the way it's spelled. The spelling and the sound match up. The meaning is not difficult, maybe. But also the context and also the number of times you hear something. The more you hear something, the more likely you'll remember it. And I think for adults, we need to be exposed to new words. Was it something like 30 or 40 times before we can start to remember something?
Yes.
So like frequent exposure, hearing it or seeing it is very important too.
Yes. まあその僕たちがね覚えやすい言葉っていうのはね、まあいろいろ要素があると思うんですけども、ね、音とかね、音が特徴的だから覚えやすいとかね、まあ意味が特徴的だから覚えやすいとか、まあでも基本的にはやっぱその単語に出会う回数を増やすとかね。
That's probably the number one and most important thing. So like with definitely, I use definitely a lot in writing and also in speaking. So finally, after looking it up several times, I was able to remember, it's not A, it's I. And so I've mastered that one, but I have not mastered diarrhea because diarrhea is not a word you talk about often.
No.
So my exposure is very limited. You know?
そうね、僕にとってもコンサバティブっていうのは使う機会が少ないし、あんま使わないし、っていうのでなかなか覚えられないって覚えてるんですよ、意味はね。けど会話の時にこう瞬間的に出てこないっていう意味ね。今回のエピソードのテーマでどうやってこういう風なものと対応していくか、でちょっと僕のテクニックというか考えをねご紹介しましょう。
Okay, I'm interested to see what that is.
Yes, it's simply you don't need to remember this word. It is a simple.
I thought you were going to give us like this grand technique for how to remember difficult English words or something.
そんなものはない。もうこれはね使わない単語であると考えられるから。
Okay.
もう忘れちゃって OK って。
Okay. Actually, I have another technique, not for remembering the words, but for getting around them.
Yes.
But actually, that's kind of true, like what you're saying. If it's a word that you have to keep looking up because you're not using it in daily conversation enough, you don't have enough exposure to it, then if you don't have an exposure, that means it's probably not a very important word. You can kind of forget it. That's actually good advice.
そうね。でもしかしたらそれはね書き言葉で頻度はねやっぱ高くないかもしれない可能性があるからね。
Right, that's true.
で今アンドレさんが言ってくれたようにその get around it。まあちょっとその別の言い方表現などで言ってみましょうよっていうのね。
Sure. Well, we were talking about the word conservative for you, and then in Japanese it's hoshiteki. So, like, I don't always remember hoshiteki.
So what do you say?
I'll just say like, 考え方が古い人. People understand. Yeah.
まあもちろんそれで全然通じるもんね。
Sure. Like if you were going to do a roundabout way in English, what would you say?
For conservative?
Yeah.
I always say old-fashioned.
Okay.
Or old thinking or some
Okay, so
some
similar,
kind.
right? 考え方が古い人.
ちょっとね、まあオールドファッションだね。
Yeah.
で、まあでもまあそれでいいかみたいな最近思うようになってきたんですからね。
Yeah, I think people get the idea. I have a question, and I hope you know. So, conservative is hoshuteki. What is liberal? A liberal is the opposite. What is that in Japanese? Because I don't know that word.
リベラルっていうね、最近は。
Really?
リベラル。
Oh God, that's hard to say. That's even more difficult to say than hoshuteki.
なんだろう、そのちゃんとした日本語のなんか訳が分かんないけど辞書には自由主義のとか、まあ、心の広いとか、
Okay.
書いてますね。自由、 まあ、自由ですよね。自由なっていう意味ですよ
Okay.
ね。
自由 and 心が広い。Okay. That sounds about right.
そうだからこういうふうに僕のコンサバティの場合であればまあ他にもチョイスはあって、マインドセットが使えるね。ナローマインドセットとかね。
Yeah.
チョイスがねいくつか持っておくといいかもしれないね。
Yeah, and actually that is a very good technique because this is a technique that we native people also use when we can't think of a word, but also like young children when we're still learning English, when we're still learning the language and we don't know a word, that's what we do. We use roundabout words.
なるほどね。まあ遠回りというか、
Yeah.
間接的な他の言い方で表現するっていうね。
Yeah.
でこの間ちょうどこのコンサバティを言うシチュエーションが実はあったんですよね。
Okay.
僕でその時に相手の人がね話してる相手の人外国人の人なんですけども、その人が、difficult people って言ってたんですね。
Okay.
Does that make sense to you as a native speaker?
Yeah, but difficult people can have a different meaning than just conservative. It can be like kimuzukashi, and that's different than conservative.
ちょっとまあでも分かるっちゃ分かるけど細かく言うと違うみたいなね。
Yeah. Depends on the context. Like, if you were talking about like American politics, I would understand. But in a general way, maybe you need some context or some explanation.
まあこれでも一応 OK ということですよね。
Yeah.
まあ何でも OK ですよ。分かれば。そうね。
Well, the point is communication, right? As long as you say something and the other person understands, then you've done your job. You're done. You're good.
だからテストではないから会話って。
Right.
別にこの単語っていう風にね使わなくていいですよね。覚えなくていいんですよね。
That's right.
でどうしても覚えたいという方もいらっしゃると思います。I understand it because I wanted to remember it.
Okay.
できるだけね単語を覚えたいから。
Sure.
でその時にone technique
Okay.
to remember a new word, we have to hardwire it into our brain.
Okay.
You
To
know?
hardwire something, how do you do that?
The simple answer is, as you said, get exposure
Okay.
to a word you want to remember.
Okay.
できるだけその覚えたいという単語にね出会う頻度を増やすっていうね。でもこれって実は気づいてないだけでもしかしたらあなた見たり聞いてたりするかもよっていうのが実はあるんですよね。っていうのはこれも実は最近僕によくあったことがあるんですけども、別に覚えたくない単語をねよく聞いて、なんかいつの間にか覚えちゃったっていうのがたまにあるんですよね。
Yeah, and I think again, doesn't it go back to exposure though? So I think for me, if I hear a word I don't know and I look it up. So for example, I'll give an example. Someone came here to like a free cafe day that we had, and they were talking about buying a lot of something. And they used the word otonagai. I didn't know what otonagai is. I never heard that before. So I said, what is that? What does that mean? The person couldn't really explain well, but they said it's when you have enough money to buy what you want and you buy, like instead of buying one pack of Pokemon cards, you buy 20 because you can. And then I kind of understood the concept. And then after we had that conversation, I started hearing or noticing otonagai in other places. I'd lived in Japan for 27 years. I'm sure I had heard otonagai before then, and I didn't know what it meant. So it just kind of went in and went out. It didn't really register in my brain. It just went in one ear and out the other side. But once you hear something and you understand the meaning, then it's easier to hear it. When it comes up again, it's easier to catch it in conversation. It's easier to notice it in conversation. So that's one example.
Yes.
Yeah. So probably like with conservative, you also like maybe not consciously paying attention, but maybe you started to hear it around you more once you looked it up and you kind of knew the meaning.
Maybe. I hope so. まあだから
So would that be like hardwiring? Just exposure?
Exposure で知らない うちに聞いている単語もね聞けるようになるというか、もしかしたらねその単語によく実は合ってるかもしれない、っていうことが言いたいんですけども、でもそういう現象ありませんか？でこの現象に実は名前がついててフリークエンシーイリュージョンみたいなね、
Oh, that sounds cool.
はい、名前がついているらしいでございます。
Sounds cool.
Yes. そうだから気づいてなかったけど、そのある瞬間からその単語とかね、まあ単語じゃなくても何でもいいけど、この現象を覚えて、それでその何気なく過ごしてるうちにそこの部分に気づくみたいなね。
Okay. So that's what we were talking about too. Yeah. Okay.
で僕がそういうふうな実は最近それで覚えた単語がありまして。
Okay.
でこれちょっと、ね、使える場所が全くないんだけど、なぜか覚えてしまった。
What's the word?
Mutiny.
Mutiny. I hope you never have to use that in real life. Although, who knows? With the American elections next year, you might use it. You might use it.
これいつ使うんだよ。でもなんか覚えたぞみたいな。でもそのあるきっかけっていうのはmutiny.
Wait. Stop. You have to tell the listeners what mutiny means.
Mutiny そうね。そう日本語では反乱するとかね。
Yeah.
暴動を起こすとかね。
Yeah.
そういう意味ですよね。
Yeah, 暴動を起こす. So actually, there was a mutiny last year in America with the January 6th. Not last year, 2 years ago, when Trump's supporters rushed the White House and the Capitol building and tried to take control of the government. That was a mutiny. That's a good example.
そうその時はそう、もしかして新聞出てたかもしれないけど特に覚えてなくて。
Yeah, it sounds like a pirate word, like you use it on pirate ships, you know.
そうなんです。で最近僕オーディブック聞くじゃないですか。I listen Audible.
Yeah.
And I love sci-fi novel.And this mutiny came up on one of the sci-fi novel.
Oh, okay.
So I noticed this word at that point. And I watched One Piece on Netflix.
Okay.
And there's some people said mutiny in the series. So I started recognize it and I remember it. And then actually it hardwired it. And I今完璧に今の時点ではね完璧に覚えているっていう。
Cool. That's good though. That's exactly how you remember things.
いやでもこれいつ使うんだっていうね。
来年かもよ。来年アメリカがまた選挙あるから。You might use it next year. But I've never heard of this phrase frequency illusion. So that's actually very interesting to me. Yeah.
そういう
It has a name.
そう何かちょっと詳しいそのメカニズムはちょっとわからない覚えてないんだけど、なんかそのあなたが何かを勉強している時に、いきなりその何かをなんかこうそのキーワードだったりがもうあれここにもあるここにもあるここにもあるみたいなね、現象今もしかしたら皆さんねなったことあるかもしれないですけど、僕はたまにありますよこういうのね。
Okay. Does it only have to be with words and language? Could it be with situations?
Could be a different situation. Like,
okay. Because I'm thinking, like, for example, about 5 years ago, I bought the car that I have, and this car is a Toyota Aqua, and it's white. I'd never noticed Aquas before because I wasn't interested in Aqua cars. I wasn't looking at them. I wasn't interested in them. But after I bought this car, suddenly I noticed like every other car on the road is a white Aqua. And I went to work one day. I was working at a hospital back then. And went to work, came out to the parking lot, and every single car almost in the whole row was a white Aqua. And I had a really hard time finding my car, which one was mine, because there were so many white Aquas. That's kind of like a frequency illusion, I think.
そうね。
Right?
それがまさにフリークエンシーイリュージョン。自分のね。
You don't notice until, and then suddenly, bam, it's everywhere.
そうだから自分の車がねこの車種であれみんな車種これ同じ乗っとるやんってね。
それまでに全然気づかないのに。
そういうありますよね。何かしら
あります。
で僕はそういう英単語で、たまにあるっていうことですよね。おそらく皆さんにもね皆さんにもなんか経験が 一緒の経験があるんじゃないかなと思うんですけども。
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
I think for language, it's probably a fairly common frequency occurrence,
Yeah.
I should say.
まあちなみに僕はそれ以外の言葉でミューティニー以外にもありまして、もちろん使える単語もあるんです。使える単語でね、
Really?
このハードワイヤー、つまりハードワイヤーちなみに何回も言ったけど、まあ頭に刻まれるみたいなね、
Okay.
なんかそういう意味なんですけども。
Okay, what else have you hardwired into your brain?
他の単語で言うと feasible とか、
Oh, that's a good word.
あとは presumably とかね。
Presumably. Oh my goodness. Okay. Presumably.
はい、っていうのがあります。
Okay. Those are good words. Yeah.
なんかね。
Feasible.
feasible ね。まあ使わないっちゃ使わないけど。
Okay, well, I'm going to make you use it now. Okay, now I'm going to have these in my mind. Feasible and presumably.
presumably.
Mutiny, maybe next year we'll use it.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I'm going to bother you and use these words all the time.
Okay. まあちなみに feasible は、実現可能なっていう意味とね。
Yeah.
あ
It's
と
possible.
presumably はこれ何だったっけ、おそらくみたいな。
Yeah, おそらく it's like I think so, but not quite sure of the situation.
そう、それなんかちょっと堅苦しい言い方みたいなね。
Really?
書いてましたけど、はい。
So presumably we're going to finish this podcast within the next 10 minutes, but I don't really know. I don't really know that.
そう。
That's how you could use that.
まあちなみに何でも言うんですけど、これ覚えようと覚えた単語じゃなくて、なんかポッドキャストとかね、オーディオブック聞いてるうちになんか。
Okay.
多分そういうので使われる単語だと思うんですけどね。
Okay. Well, that's cool though. You're learning from audiobooks.
そうだから。
Good.
オーディオブックおすすめです。
Good. Oh, that's good. Very nice.
Okay, that's all for this episode. We had a fun talk today.
Yes, we did.
But we have one more thing to tell you.
We're more than just a podcast. We're also a community. Sign up for our mailing list to discuss topics, episodes, share stories, and connect with fellow listeners.
This is CrossTalk signing off.
Bringing you English your way every week.
Bye.
Bye.